Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update, and we do indeed have a lot to get into. We're going to be addressing, to start the video off, some things happening more macroeconomically. A lot of people have asked me what the hell is going on with China nearly 2xing their monetary supply overnight. And I don't actually think this is the case. I think what's happening now is people that track this are having to account for their revised stats based on a new accounting model. I think if you look at certainly the Asian indexes, but more broadly indexes, the markets would have reacted substantially more to a doubling in monetary supply overnight by coming out of China, mainland China, the Chinese central bank. And actually, this is not the case. So we will be quieting all this down. I think the reason that we're doing this is because people are legitimately on Twitter, accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, putting forward the argument that China has actually doubled their monetary supply overnight based on what TradingView's M1 is showing. When in actual fact, I think in December, they announced a different accounting model. Then we'll talk about something that came out of the FOMC that potentially hints perhaps at an end to quantitative tightening, or at least an easing of it. Quickly talk about a Dixie scenario, and then we've got a lot to get into. The SEC had a closed meeting yesterday, the Sunshine Act notice. I wonder what's going to come out about that. We've also got some news in regards to how they're now viewing staking. We were lucky enough to interview Duncan Moyer, who of course is the president of 21 Shares now, and that was a topic that we discussed. And actually, it's very interesting. We've had 60 plus ETFs filed since the start of this year alone. It's only February the 21st today. And then we're going to talk about the European Central Bank. They've now unveiled plans for a blockchain payment system, and we'll look at the official sort of notice. Or report, and then we'll look at some links to certain cryptocurrencies like Algorand, like XRP, and Stellar. And I'll do a longer video on this later on today because I've got a hell of a lot I can say on the whole subject matter. Let's get into it, guys. Let's start things off. X is the best and worst place for information. And if you're into financial markets, you should be on X. But take what you say, certainly from a lot of these accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, with a pinch of salt. And this isn't the Michael Burry stock tracker just... I don't think he's saying this is particularly happened, but there are people out there generally saying that this is a reason to expect market acceleration. It would have already happened by now. It would be happening today if what is basically being put forward on Twitter was actually the reality of the situation, and that is that China has essentially doubled its monetary supply from, essentially $70 trillion to $112 trillion overnight. That's not the case. What's actually taken place here, and just to show you this on TradingView, is these things like TradingView are essentially having to now readjust how they're accounting it based on how China's readjusted how they've accounted it, and that's now accounting for some of the things that have already came to pass. So this is something really that's already happened, and it hasn't just happened overnight. There's just been a readjustment in regards to the kind of accounting of Chinese monetary supply and how the likes of TradingView, et cetera, are tracking it. So, unfortunately, they haven't doubled their monetary supply. Just to quieten that down, because I saw a hell of a lot of really bad takes. We didn't get to cover FOMC and some of what came out on the minutes, but the Blockworks did a good article. FOMC minutes hint at an end to quantitative tightening. And they cite this. So this is essentially what they're citing. Let's just zoom into it on the page. A number of participants also discussed some issues related to the balance sheet regarding the composition of secondary market purchase of the Treasury securities that would occur once the process of reducing the size of the Federal Reserve's holdings of securities had come to an end. Many participants expressed a view that it would be appropriate to structure repurchasing in a way that would move the maturity composition of the SOMA portfolio, don't worry about that, guys, closer to that of the outstanding stock of the Treasury debt, while also minimizing the risk of disruption. Then they go on to cite the debt ceiling issues or potential non-issues. Despite quantitative tightening, it's really been null and void by the likes of the reverse repo, which they're very much, or the Treasury at least, is running out of funding, running out of runway to fund things with the reverse repo and actually purchase those treasuries. So the question then becomes, well, who's now about to step in and support the bond market when the TGA has been drained and the reverse repo, overnight repo sort of holdings has gone from 2.5 trillion down to 63 billion. I believe the Fed will step in. I think people are being, and rightfully so because of what we've been told by the Federal Reserve, way too hawkish. I think for me personally, when I look at a kind of reflection of all this, and certainly something that's going to directly affect the markets, is the Dixie. I think the Dixie's on a downward trajectory just like it had in 2017. Julian Bittle put forward this scenario. It's the first person that kind of I had found that was highlighting the similarities between Trump getting in this time, what he did last time, the dollar, and what that meant for risk assets. I ultimately think we've got this great kind of macro backdrop. So I just want to start the video clearing some of that up. China hasn't increased its monetary supply 2x overnight, like what X would have you believe. It's good that they're now speaking about quantitative tightening and certainly looking at things, and quantitative tightening in this form is just them rolling off or reducing their balance sheet through allowing things to mature in this case, or they could be selling it. Quantitative easing, which assets typically do well under, is when they're adding to the balance sheet. I think we'll see QE, despite Jerome Powell's recent comments of we don't need to do QE or we won't do QE until interest rates are at zero. I think we'll see QE before many people expect it. I think that has a lot to do with sort of the funding issues. And certainly the draining of the reverse repo and the TGA, which is for an entire video or an entirely different video. And I think our dollar scenario, I need to get a video out on this and how that's going to inflate risk assets broadly and how we're basically seeing a 2017 repeat. Talk about the SEC. So this speculation was essentially linked to Ripple, but the SEC had a meeting behind closed doors yesterday. And of course, the Ripple case would have very likely been a topic of conversation, or the kind of persecution of the crypto space more broadly. But there are over 60 ETFs that have been filed. Many of these are now, or have now been acknowledged. I say many, a good handful. So the XRP ones, the Doge, etc., etc. More and more are taking place. The Solana one. The next step for this is it's really sort of counting down the clock. We are going to see, I think, a wave of ETFs actually come to the forefront this year. And that's ultimately going to sort of unlock, I believe, billions of dollars that are going to flow into this space. So we'll see what comes out from this. Nothing official thus far. This was set to take place yesterday. But it would have most certainly, centered perhaps around the cryptocurrency industry. Also coming out of the SEC, this is Eleanor Tourette. According to a source that has recently spoke with the SEC Gov, the agency is very, very interested in staking, even asking industries for a memo detailing the different types of staking and their benefits. This source expects to see some kind of agency guidance on staking in the near future, as it's as a topic they're engaging enthusiastically on. Last week, staffers from the Division of Trading and Markets took part in asking webinars or staking webinars with some industry players, as I reported on Friday. Again, 21 shares have looked to adjust their ETH staking basket or Ethereum ETF to include staking. This is something we're yet to see. And that then gives these kind of like a yield and affects their role as an asset more broadly in regards to, okay, well, if I can have something that's doing very well and also I can get a yield from staking, that becomes a more desirable asset. And certainly if Trump looks to do things with taxes in relation to kind of US cryptos. Yesterday, the European Central Bank has unveiled a plan for a blockchain payment system. Now, earlier this year, the ECB announced Bitcoin would not enter any EU member state reserve. That was Christian Lagarde that said that herself. This is the official document. Eurosystem expands initiative to settle DLT-based transactions in central bank money. The 20th of February 2025. Eurosystem steps up efforts to innovate market infrastructure. We already knew this was coming, guys. Two-track approach, developing solutions which is interoperable with existing infrastructure. Look into long-term integration solutions. The government or the governing council of the European Central Bank decided to expand its innovative to sell transactions recorded on distributed ledger technology in central bank money. The initiative will follow a two-track approach. First, as soon as feasible, the Euro system will develop and implement a safe and effective platform for such settlements in central bank money through an interoperability link with target services. Now, I know of 3 cryptos that are working with Target 2 within the EU, and we'll do a video on that later on today. A concrete time plan will be announced in due course. Second, the Euro system will look into a more integrated long-term solution for settling DLT-based transactions in central bank money. This will also include interoperability or international operations such as foreign exchange settlements. We are embracing innovation without compromise on safety and stability, said the ECB executive board member who oversees. This is an important contribution to enhancing European financial market efficiency through innovation. Our approach will pay due attention to the Eurosystem's goal of achieving a more harmonious and integrated European financial ecosystem. Every central bank, money itself, value itself will run on the rails of DLT. Actually, on the back end of this post, this is from Eldar, and this was links obviously to the ECB and some of what's been essentially taking place, which is extremely interesting. Algorand's implemented here. You've got Ripple. They're already working with the Digital Euro Association. This is from the 11th of Feb 2022. And then you've got Stellar, a fully compliant Euro stablecoin powered by Stellar. The Societe General Forge Euro stablecoin has arrived. So I think there's not just going to be one blockchain to rule them all. One will be a lot more prominent than others. But generally, there's going to be multiple that are going to work in kind of sync with one another that are going to enable this kind of digital internet of value that we're moving towards. Huge news coming out of the ECB. Other central banks yet to follow. When it comes to the cryptocurrency space, you guys already know the drill. This is just going to set up for continuation in the same way NVIDIA did, in the same way the DAX did, in the same way Vanex Semiconductor. I've shown you lots of examples. When you look at the altcoin sector generally, and I did this with my patrons, we looked at the top 50 altcoins, including stablecoins. They're just basing in what we like to look at as phase 2, ready for that sort of, or what we like to look at as phase 1. A lot of them are already broken into phase 2 and they're ready for that continuation. And the cryptocurrency market through the lens of Bitcoin predicts that. The Total 2 predicts that. This is perfectly a support and resistance flip or resistance support flip. The Total 2 looks at this. The Total does. The Total 3, others, etc., etc. You've just got to be in it to win it, guys. Ultimately, brighter days are ahead. Sentiment will change on a dime. And you want to be on that train when it leaves the station. That's it from me, guys. Have a fantastic Friday. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.